All right, guys. I'm gonna double check and see if we are live. And yes, we are live. Finally. Took me forever and a day. But we are finally live. Um, Let me see something here. Not seeing. Nat, you guys are frozen. So if you could exit and come back in for me, please. I'm really sorry. Welcome back, guys, for another episode of the A Better Me Equals a Better We podcast. I am your host, Traquan or Trey. I do apologize for the inconvenience or you guys not being able to find us, see us for a bit of time. We had a few technical difficulties trying out a new system. And then also with the Zoom that we were using, we had some issues with that. But nonetheless, we're here, episode 8, which is entitled The Pandemic Through the Eyes of Our Youth. And I have some very, 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 very special panelists with me today. And at this time, we're actually, give me just one moment. I just want to allow our other panelists to log back in. I believe they were having some technical difficulties. Um, just so everyone can introduce themselves. So just bear with us just a brief moment. And here, here they are, I believe. Bear with me. Thank you guys so much for your patience. There we go. So now that you guys are on, Darren, can you introduce yourself for our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself? Hey guys, Darren, can you hear me? All right, seems like they might still be having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Did
Masai,
you
in the
say Darren?
meantime, yes, I did. If Darren, can you introduce yourself for our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself? So we can't hear you guys right now. So in the meantime, Masai, can you introduce yourself for our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself?
My name's Masai. I'm 16. I live in Riverside, California. I'm in ninth grade. And I like to hang out with my friends and play video games for fun.
That's dope. That's dope. Really good to hear. I know a lot of kids or a lot of parents that are even on today are going to say that their kids love to do the same thing, hanging out with their friends and playing video games. So I can tell already that Masai is going to be, and there's the VR, right? Masai is going to be very relatable for a lot of our viewers today. And Roman, why don't you introduce yourself for our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Roman. I live in East Stroudsburg. My age is 10 and I'm in fourth grade. And I like playing soccer. I like playing online with my friends. And I like going outside and exploring.
Okay, that's super cool. So Roman likes to do a wide variety of different things, from playing video games, going outside, playing sports. So something that's going to be very relatable for a lot of the kids and the parents that are going to be on. And Darren, now that we got you back, Why don't you introduce yourself for our viewers and tell them a little bit about yourself? Can you hear me, Darren?
My age is 11. I like.
Okay, you said you like what?
My name is Darren. My age is 11. I like playing football, and I live in Baltimore. You live in Maryland. Maryland.
Okay. So as you guys can see, I try to really broaden the horizon as far as like the kids that we chose from a bunch of different areas, just to try to get like a really big perspective, rather than just choosing a bunch of kids from one area and it's just one perspective and this is how the kids view it here. In this particular instance, I wanted to get kids from all over, just to really see how everybody's taking this, right? How everybody's feeling about this. And again, the name of this particular episode 8 is the pandemic through the eyes of our youth, right? So we wanted to make sure that we got youth from a bunch of different areas. So I want to just dive like right into our topic, right? Now that we've got to know our kids, they're all with a chaperone right now. So you'll hear from their chaperones as well at some point in the episode. But just to dive right into it, right? When we look at the pandemic, right, one of the first things that we notice when we think about kids and kids in the pandemic is the fact that kids are literally home all day, right? And as parents, that's something that can be a little different because we're used to going to work or our kids going to school, and we're away from our kids a certain amount of hours out of the day. But a lot of parents are working from home, and then their children are also home all day, right? Which is not just a culture shock for the parents, but it could possibly be a culture shock for the children too, right? So I want to ask Roman, like, how does it feel to be home like most days, opposed to like where you would go to school in a normal day, like you would go to school most of the time?
But I sometimes, even though if I go to sleep or if I'm home, then I would forget that I don't have school or if I go to school in the morning. And so it's like I don't like staying at home as much as I used to when I was in school almost every day. And I used to like going to school more than I was staying at home.
Okay. And that's a great point. Like I really love what Roman said in regards to like being home, going to sleep, and now you wake up like, do I have school? Do I not have school? Like one thing for me as a kid, like I always knew when I had school and when I didn't have school because I knew when I could wake up late and when I couldn't wake up late. But when you're home all day, it just kind of feels like when is school? When is school today? Is school tomorrow? Like when is school? So now kids have to now adapt to now waking themselves up or feeling like they have that responsibility of waking them themselves up, which could be just a little bit like different for them, right? So Masai, right? When we talk about school and online schooling or just being home most of the days, have you done school online? And do you enjoy it?
I have done school online and I do enjoy doing it online. It's just the tiny things I struggle with. It's like the teacher's not there to show me how to do it, but they use a program where they can write it down and visualize it.
So, so that's one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing with our kids, right? Is that they're actually not in the classroom, right? And that can pose a big problem when you need help and somebody being able to come over your shoulder. Okay, listen, this is how you do this. You explain to your teacher, all right, this is the problem that I'm having, and they're able to walk you through it. Whereas nowadays with a lot of the teachers, they're doing in class school and then virtual learning at the same time. So although they're visualizing it, they're writing it down, they're able to help them. It's a lot different from being able to raise your hand and you get that personal attention that you would have when you're in, let's say like a normal classroom. So I definitely think like that's a great point, Masai. And I think that that's one of the things that as parents we have to look at. I know in my son's school, they call the parents learning coaches, right? And at this point in time, with everything that's going on, that's exactly what we are. Like whether we feel like we're capable of it, whether we feel like we were trained to do it, we have to do our best to give our children that assistance, and being there for our kids, being those learning coaches for them, because things are just a little tough with them, being able to ask questions, right? So it's definitely something that's a little off, right? So Darren, being that you do online schooling right now, right? Um, what are your thoughts about going back to school, right? So when you think about going back to school one day, which is what it sounds like it's going to be very soon, what are your thoughts about going back to school?
I think that it might be a little fun, but at the same time, I'm gonna be a little scared because, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to have my mask up the whole time. I might accidentally like slip and like take my mask off my nose a little.
Okay, right, and that's a great point. I'm happy, Darren, that you brought up the whole mask thing, right? Because in a lot of places, but for a lot of kids that are going to school now, they wear masks all day. And I know for me, having been a working all day, mask on all day for an adult is an adjustment, right? So now for our kids to say to them like, okay, you have to go back to, are you going to have your mask on? Can you have your mask on all day, right? Or if they raise, that's something that we still want to do. Like, are you still gonna send your kids to school with the mask on, right? So that's a lot to think about for a kid, right? Like, and they're just going there to learn, and now they have to think about things like masks or keeping their masks up, and things of that sort. So, Roman, Masai kind of touched on, you know, online schooling and some of the challenges that he had with online schooling as far as like the help, and stuff like that. But what are some positive things that you would say, that you actually like about online schooling?
Well, I like about online schooling is it's easy to go to the worksheets. Well, it's easy to go to the worksheets or to like you don't really need to move because like they go on they have to be on the computer. Sometimes they have the worksheets and they bring it to you or they mail it to you. But other than that, you're just sitting at the computer doing your work. You don't really need to move anywhere else.
Okay, so it's very convenient. Like all the work is in one place. It's easy to find, and it could be possibly like less to think about because your work is just one click away. Whereas the teacher would say, turn to page this, turn to page that, right? So it definitely makes it a lot easier in that regards, and to just finding your work. And with these kids in the 21st century, us being from the old school, we're used to books, turn to page 57, lesson such and such and such. But for them being on laptops, that might be the best thing ever because they're so familiar with laptops, that I could see why that is a positive, about online schooling, and just going to school online, them just being able to be on the laptops, and things of that sort. So Masai, being that you touched on online schooling, just a little bit, and you're a little bit older than our other two panelists, so you've been to school, a few more years and being able to experience, what it was like going to school and then, going to the next grade, meeting new friends and things of that sort. What would you say that you miss the most, about going to school, like physical school?
I'd say I miss the most is that hanging out with friends and meeting new people and like playing sports with them during lunch and having conversations, because usually during online school people just like are more awkward because we haven't talked to each other in a while, so they just like don't say anything. Are you a quarterback? Yes. I didn't hear you. Yes. How does that, being a quarterback and being popular and all that good stuff? Well, I'm not popular or anything. I just am well known. Oh, sorry. Well known. Okay. How's that with friends? Friends. I mean, I still don't talk to them as much as I used to because they're all busy. Because apparently during online school, people are like going out of town and stuff and visiting and doing other things because they don't have to go to physical school, which is also a plus because then you can spend more time with your family after school and stuff if you don't have work.
Right, definitely, right? So you can definitely, this is definitely an opportunity where you could spend more time with your family, more time with the people that you love. But, you know, like Masai said, you know, one of the things that I think that our youth or a lot of people are, or a lot of our young people are going to miss is friends, right? You go to one grade and you know everybody in your first, second, third grade class, and then you go to the next grade and you meet a whole group of new people who are in your class. These are people that you're meeting like online. Like, so all of those jokes, all of those conversations where you ask each other about, you know, different traits, or do you like this, or do you like this game, and do you like that game, and all this conversation that you would have, you know, with your classmates is kind of cut because the entire time, like the teacher can see you. You know, I know that there are little ways that you guys have figured out, like how to pass notes, and I'm not gonna give you guys up, and stuff like that. But you know, that ability to be sociable is definitely lacking, and for the younger kids who haven't been in school long enough to gain certain social skills, it's definitely something that could hinder the younger generation a little bit when you talk about being social, meeting people, and being comfortable being around people, right? So that kind of, you know, shifts it to like the next topic I want to go to, right? So we first talked about being home all day. Now I kind of want to talk about friends, right? So with our kids being home all day in the pandemic, and one of the common things that we'll hear besides the kids being home all day is friends, friends, and then no friends, right? So Darren, how does it feel not being able to see like your friends and family as much as you usually would?
Um, I feel like it's kind of, it's like sometimes it's like frustrating, sometimes it's like aggravating, sometimes I feel really sad. I'm like really not happy like cuz if the school year was going on, I would have had so many friends right now. I would have been home doing homework, like real homework and papers. I don't have to type on the computer no more. I'm tired of finger cramps.
And trying to find the letters.
Right, definitely. Not really used to typing, and stuff like that. So Nikki, how is it as a parent, knowing that your child has to adjust to not being around friends and not being able to be with maybe like their younger or older, just their cousins or family in general? Like, how was that adjustment for you as a parent, and what are some things that you do to kind of, you know, help him out with that?
Well, it's of course, Darren's busy, so of course it can be tiring trying to like, get him to sit still or, but of course you don't want him to sit still because, it's unfair. He can't be around people. And now, even though we're opening up more, it's like times when we couldn't be around anyone. So, I mean, the fact that we moved to another state, he's not even able to make friends. I try to do the thing like, you know, get the VR because it's like, he has like his VR friends, his virtual reality. Like we can't go outside, but, something to keep your attention. Like it's more like, different books that we're reading and things like that. But as a parent, it's more so trying to find different things for him to do because, he's not around children his age at all. So even like just being around me, like I hear him like sometimes picking up my lingo or mommy's lingo, sounding like an old man because he's not around like kids his age, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just more so trying to find a balance of things because you don't want to put he's on the computer all day, so I don't want to give him the VR too long. That's way too much, screen time. So we just try to limit that and get him, it's a learning process. We're getting a little more comfortable with it.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. And I think it's a learning process for all of us. Like, especially in the very beginning, it was trial and error. I don't think that anyone that I could think of in the generations that are still alive have dealt with something like this as far as pandemic wise, right? So the last pandemic that I could think of was in like 1910, and that was like the Spanish flu, or something of that sort. And if there was one after that, I'm sorry if I missed it, but to my knowledge, this is the first time in a long time that the world has had to deal with things like this. So it's an adjustment for all of us. I should say nonetheless. And Masai, how is it when you are trying to make friends virtually? Like, is it a hard experience? Like what is it like to make friends that you have never actually met?
Well, it's different for some people, but for me, it's like pretty easy because I can just hop on into the conversation and I can talk to people because like it's like virtual, so it's not that hard from face to face because it's there's no stress really, and you don't like they don't see you, you don't see them and stuff. So like you have a little bit more confidence, I guess.
A little bit more confidence to say, okay, I can text this person, they don't see me. Not that anxiety of like when you first meet somebody or like if you want to go talk to a girl, those butterflies, like, oh, she kind of cute, but I'm a little nervous. Like now, only thing you see is a name and a click here to chat. So it's a little easier to just click that, write that message and send it and don't even look at it, right? And just wait for the reply. So now, with that being said, right, it being just a little bit easier to engage with people now that you don't actually have that anxiety of being in front of them and speaking to them. How much of an adjustment do you think it'll be to now meet those or interact with those same people in person?
I definitely feel like there's going to be a lot of more talk, because after all that stuff, people want to talk and like tell everybody what happened, and then they want to talk about what they did and what they like had to do, or like the stories and everything. So it's like when people come back, they're gonna be excited to talk to people because talking virtually it's harder kinda than talking in real life, because in person you can like make up conversations on the spot. Due to like online, you can't relate really that much as you can face to face.
So like being next to somebody, a bird could fly by or something funny could happen, and it just sparks up a conversation, and you guys can talk that way. So it definitely makes it a lot easier to have conversations with people and to interact with each other. And then, like you said, I can remember being in school and coming back to school was one of the most talkative times, like, the school ever had, because we all, for the majority, had been away from each other for so long throughout the entire summer. And now we got all of these stories to tell each other. And for you guys who have dealt with the pandemic, like you guys have had a year and a half worth of stories to tell each other. So being back around each other is probably going to be like one of the most exciting things ever, because now you guys are going to have so much things to talk about, so much things to tell each other. So I just want to run to our comments really quickly. And I see here Devon was in our comments, and he says, let's actually run to our comments. And Devon said in our comments, let's see, bear with me one moment, guys. I just want to show you guys our comments. So Devon said hello to Roman, and also to Redman as well. And then he also said, I love the support from the parents. Good point, Masai. They need the hands-on aspect. And then he also said, right, Darren, safety is important in regards to wearing the mask at school. And then he asked a question. He said, how do our kids adapt in this new coronavirus atmosphere? So I actually want to ask that question to Masai's chaperone, Natalie. How do our kids adapt in this new coronavirus atmosphere?
I think that our children are adapting very well because they're following the lead of the parents, and children are resilient. But it is a big change, you know. Like I look at them and I see them online, and you know they're Masai and Julian, my grandsons. They tease me because I'm always asking questions. Should you be doing that? Because I think the biggest thing that will make them successful is their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their honesty and their integrity. Like today, my daughter, their mom had to run out and she's leaving the boys to be in class. They can mute it, they can turn the TV on, they can be playing games and see grandma as a snitch if she tells on them. I don't want to be a snitch. I don't want to be a Karen. I want them to do the right thing. So I think that it's a dual role. We need them just as if they were in school to be on their best behavior and represent us as a family. They need to do the same thing at home. And I love what Roman said about it's a little confusing. When you're home, you're home. You get up in the morning, you've conditioned yourself, I'm going to be at school, I'm going to be here 6 hours, and they're constantly shifting gears. You know, say when we first started working from home before the pandemic, it took me a while to realize you're working from home, you can't kick it, get up, get dressed as if you were going to work. And that's the missing link I see with a lot of our children. They've got to learn to adjust. That's the biggest adjustment for them, to understand you're not at home, you're not kicking it, you need to be working. So that's what we have to learn. Prepare for traffic. I teach online, so I prepare for traffic. I'm not leaving the house, but I prepare for the bandwidths. I make sure everything is turned off if you're not using it. I need the microwave at 10 o'clock because I'm going to be on a break. I put a sign up. So we need to prepare our children for the at-home traffic and the honesty and integrity that we want them to foster away from home.
Definitely. And, I definitely love that aspect of things and really, like you said, preparing them for those little things, right? That we may not really look into or notice or think that are things, but actually are things, right? Devon also said, our kids are used to the social in-person aspect of learning and engaging. So yeah, like definitely a different type of, way that they have to engage with people. And then he also said, Natalie Nicole, which is Nikki, I love the support and consistent process of keeping him grounded and engaged during the pandemic. And that's what we have to do, right? Keep them engaged, keep them, just doing different things and being consistent, right? Being consistent is going to be the key, because being consistent is what changes things, right? You can do something for one day, but being consistent with it, whether you're going to the gym, whether you're trying to lose weight, no matter what it is, being consistent with it is where you see the change, right? And Hannah Rochelle said in our comments, I feel bad for the kids going through the changes from the pandemic. And this is definitely a big change. Somebody in my generation, we didn't have to deal with things like this. Like we went to school, we saw each other during the summer, and things of that sort. So now for our kids having to deal with this is uncharted territory, right? So now we have to try to figure this out on the fly because these are not things that we're used to. Roman, I'll ask you this question, right? What do you do in the times where you would normally, let's say, play with friends like in person, and now that you have to do things virtually? So you would normally play with your friends, but you can't. What would you do in that time?
I would probably, if I thought I was gonna play with my friends today at school because it's in person. I would probably go outside. This is basically like I'm playing with my friends, except there's no friends and you can explore and stuff. And I would probably play a little bit of games because I like games. And I can play VR, and if it's like I'm right next to the person, except I'm not really next to them.
Okay. So that's another thing. Like when we watched earlier on in the episode, if you guys were here, like we saw Natalie hold up the VR, and that's what our kids are doing, right? Like these video games, when they're not able to play with their friends outside, we run into a lot of different types of issues, right? Things that we didn't see as issues before because our kids were doing them in moderation because they're at school 8 hours out of the day. Then when we take into consideration the time that it takes them to get ready, you can add an additional 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on how long your process is to get ready. Then when we think about the travel to get home, so the 8 hours at school, the 3 hours to get ready, maybe 2 additional hours. So that's 13 hours out of the day they're occupied. They're sleep for, 8 to 10 other hours out of the day. So normally they probably would only have maybe 1, 2, or 3 hours to even play a video game or watch a screen and things of that sort. But now, that's pretty much where we are right now. Like we're at a point right now where the kids are now being forced to turn to the screen. And we actually had an episode previously concerning screen time. So if you guys missed that episode, you can go back. The episodes are on my page as well as the A Better Me Equals a Better We podcast page, which is up and running. And we will be live on that page going forward starting Tuesday. But screen time, right? Our kids are now being pushed to the screen more than ever. And we see adverse effects to our children when we look at the effects of screen time and long-term screen time. So not only are they playing their video games and watching YouTube or TV more, they're playing video games, and now they're at a laptop all day. And I don't know about you guys if you've ever worked at a desk. Being at work and staring at a computer all day makes my eyes hurt, right? So now imagine our children now being at this laptop all day doing work, now getting off of school, and the next thing they want to do, but that's fun to them, is watch TV, be in front of another screen, or play a video game and be in front of another screen. So now we're in an age where our kids are turning to the screen, right? And Messiah, I'll ask you, do you feel like nowadays you watch more TV than you did, let's say, prior to the pandemic?
Well, it's a yes and a no thing at the same time because during the pandemic, I had to do a lot of other things too, and I had to adjust to. Like now, I have a job and I work and stuff, so like the screen time for me is like on and off. But during and off school, I do have a lot of screen time and things to do. I don't like. I wish I could go outside as much as I can, but I can't really do that as much as I would like to because of the pandemic and stuff. And when I do go outside, I try to wear a mask and stay safe.
Definitely. So, one of the things I want to bring up before we get too in depth into the screen time is I did remember it being mentioned that you were a quarterback, you did play sports. For someone that plays sports, and I actually played sports, throughout my entire youth. What's that adjustment like? Where like most kids would probably be excited to play video games all day, but when you have an athletic personality, right? When you want to be athletic, this is what you like, this is what you're into. Like, what is it like to not be able to go, let's say, work on your craft or run around or run laps or things of that sort? Like, what's that like for you?
It really, really sucks. That's a big like downside to me because I would like to go outside and play catch. I would like to go get better at playing football. I'd like to go run with somebody and challenge my friends to do stuff like that, but I can't do that because I have nobody else to do it with. So it sucks that I can't really go outside and hang out with friends and I have to sit at home and I can't do nothing about it. So I mean, it's really tough and it makes me upset, but there's nothing I can really do about it.
And this is great for us as parents, right? When we look at different things and we say, all right, my child is athletic, and they're not able to go outside, and these are things that we may be taking lightly because we just feel like, all right, it's a pandemic outside. There's nothing that we can do about it. Relax, and do this, right? But now to hear you say like, yo, like this hurts. Like I would like to be doing this, and you play a sport where, like for me, I play basketball. You can take a basketball and dribble by yourself, right? But now when you play a sport like football, where you need someone else to throw the ball to, and things like that, like it's limited to the amount of things that you can do by yourself. So these are things that we have to look into as parents, right? When we know that our children are athletic, these are things that are in their heart. These are things that they're thinking about, or that they can possibly be sad about, or feel a way about, that issues that we should address as parents. So, that's definitely a great comment, Masai. And I think that a lot of people are going to learn from that, young people and older people alike. And just to stop at our comments for a second, Alicia said in our comments, this affects their eyes. My son has started to get headaches. So looking at that screen all day definitely has a huge effect, on your eyes. It can cause you to get headaches and things of that sort. This is why they tell you not to stare at screens for too long, to take breaks. So this is something that we want to think about as parents, to make sure that we're giving our kids breaks while they're in front of these screens, whether it's them watching a movie or them playing their games, because they're going to be in front of their computer all day doing work. So now we have to think about their screen time now more than ever, right? Roman, I'll ask you this question. I asked Masai, about TV, right? And I know that we kind of touched on video games a little bit, but do you feel like now that we're not at school, or you're not at school, I should say, 5 days out of the week, do you feel like there's more of an urge to play video games like during the week, and where you would normally like probably be doing homework?
Well, yes and no, because I know I like playing. I play video games all the time on the week, but even if I do that, I keep on forget. I think that I actually have homework, because I remember when I used to be in school, and when I was on the weekdays, I used to be so happy because I used to work all day at my school, and then I still think that I still have work done, and I actually don't, because I stay at home and I do my work before I play.
Right. So now this gives you the opportunity to, whereas before you would do work at school, and then come home and do homework. Now you just have a particular amount of work that you have to get done throughout the day. So in my son's particular school, they have meetings in the morning time. They have in a lot of the amount of work that they have to get done throughout the day. That's for that particular day. That'll keep them on pace. And then they have meetings in the afternoon to wrap up. The teacher is available for them for certain time slots throughout the day, but he just does work basically on his own. He goes through learning modules that are supposed to teach him whatever the particular topic is in each subject. But he doesn't have that same interaction, whereas kids in New York City, or I know with Darren in Baltimore, they are on their laptops with their teachers all day, going through those lessons. So where kids would normally have work and then come home and do homework, now they actually just have an allotted amount of work that they have to get done within a particular day in order to stay on course. So it's definitely a huge adjustment from homework. Now you just have a bunch of work that you got to do all day that is done for. Devon said in our comments, as far as learning with online school, do our kids feel they are grasping the information opposed to being in the classroom style of teaching? So Darren, I'll ask you that question. When it comes to online schooling, do you feel like you're grasping the information more, or good, or how should I say this? Do you feel like you're grasping it the same way that you grasp it when you're in school? Do you feel like you're learning the same way online as you do in the physical building?
Check on that question was for Darren.
Yes.
He couldn't hear you because he said, "Do you feel like you got the information the same way that you did while you were in school?" Okay, thanks for your honesty. Why?
So you guys are kind of breaking up a little bit. All right, try again.
Honestly, no, I don't think I'm learning as much.
Okay. And it could just be just that simple, right? Um, Big thing to know. And I'll ask you that question. Nat, can you mute for me, please? And Roman, do you feel like same as you would in
Because even though I do well, I feel like I have more work to do than in school than at home, because I feel like since it's on paper, I have to go into separate things and do them digitally, or I have to do on paper, because in my actual school or in my old school, we actually didn't use laptops. We just used books, and we used the laptops just for, like, I remember in Success Academy, I used the laptops in science for fun, and that's the only part that we use it for.
Okay. So now using those laptops, right? Um, and now you have to go through, like in your particular case, right? You actually have to go through like learning modules that gives you like information that you have to read and try to like digest that information and then take quizzes on stuff that you just read, which honestly is stuff that people do in college, right? Like for myself personally, I wasn't introduced to things of that sort until like late high school and college, where where your professor just gave you information and you read up on that information and then you wrote dissertations or papers and took tests and quizzes and things of that sort on that information. So this is actually like college level stuff in my eyes, that you guys are doing at such a young age. How is that process for you? Like, do you feel like it's harder now because you have to read this information on your own, and you're expected to learn it and then be able to be successful?
Well, I feel like on the computer is a little harder. Well, it's like 1% harder, because it's like you have to it's like it's right after, and you have to get it done regardless. But in school, sometimes if you be absent, you don't really need to do it on that day. But for you know what I mean, like, so when you actually get on the computer, it's a little hard, because there's some things that on the passage you don't know about, and it's not like just someone's gonna come up to you, or you have to raise your hand, and then there's someone's in front of you, and
Right.
they say, "Hey, you need some help?"
Right. So definitely one of the things that we heard Masai say earlier, like about that being a challenge where you would have somebody to just be able to come over and you're reading some information. Like if your teacher said, "Hey, we're doing social studies, turn to page 7, and read about the Great Depression." And if you read that passage and then you see something that you don't quite understand, you can raise your hand and have that person come right over to you. But in your instance, you're actually interacting with your teacher in the beginning of the day, and specific time slots throughout the day, and then at the end of the day. So having that direct attention sounds like it's something that's a bit of a challenge for everybody that's doing online schooling right now.
Yeah, because I'm a little used to it. I'm a little used to someone being in front of me, even though the parents are right next to me, or like they're doing stuff that
Hmm.
they're supposed to be doing. It's not. It doesn't feel the same, because it's like it's basically. I can't put it in a way like they are strangers. Like my teachers are strangers, because they're not, because we know them. But like I feel like they're just random people helping us, even though they have knowledge in their brains. It's not as parents that they just walk around and say, "You need help?"
And I don't know about you guys, but I really, really, really loved what Roman just said. In the sense of the teachers being strangers to the kids. Like I know for me, I had some sort of relationship with every teacher I ever had, right? Whether it was a good relationship, bad relationship, a strange relationship, I cannot stand this teacher. I really love this teacher. You were able to feel that teacher out. Now, and it's not like in the very beginning of the pandemic where the pandemic started in mid-March, where these kids were towards the end of the school year. So they had a relationship or some sort of relationship even when they went on to online schooling. But now these kids have been an entire year, some of them without even seeing their teacher in person, being able to feel them out. So I can definitely understand where Roman's coming from and feeling like, I mean, this is a stranger. Like, who is this person? And not necessarily a stranger, but just not being able to have that connectivity and feel like, at home, at school, if that makes sense. Also, in our comments, I see here that Alicia says, yes, I think they have the urge to play because with the virtual learning, they're just talking on the screen and the kids are just looking bored, falling asleep. So as soon as they get a chance to play a game and be interacting, they take it. And that's also very, very big, right? So you're on the screen all day, reading something, doing nothing, listening to somebody. And with our children, if again, if you guys go back to our screen time episode, a few episodes ago, I believe it was episode 3. You'll see we talked about screen time and our children being overstimulated because of too much screen time. And one of the things that you'll notice with overstimulation is that our kids are, if they're overstimulated, when it's time for them to listen to things or be involved in conversations that are not as stimulating as their video games, or it doesn't have as many colors or and things of that sort as what they're watching on TV, now they have to sit and listen to somebody go, now turn to page 3. But the show that they watch is like, yeah, yeah. Like my son loves YouTube, right? And every time he goes on YouTube, they're like, welcome back for another episode, and we're gonna jump up this building and roll around and yeah, right? Like that's how the YouTubers are, right? And Darren can attest to that too, because he watches YouTube as well. But then now we expect our children, Messiah, I'm pretty sure you watch YouTube as well. And now we ask our children to sit in front of a computer and listen to somebody go, turn to page 7. 5 times 7 is 35. And this is why they're having a hard time paying attention, because it's such a big difference. So, like Alicia said, they're sitting there doing what they feel like is nothing. It's so boring. They can't interact with other kids. There's nobody sitting next to them. If you're working from home, you have a job to do, or if you're at work, they're just there by themselves. So now when they get a chance to interact or play or something like that, they're jumping to it because it's really all they got, right? Like at this point in time, they feel like, or could feel like it's all they have at that time. So that's something that we definitely, have to look at going forward, with our children, just because they're so vulnerable to excess screen time, right? So definitely something that we have to look at. So Darren, when you're watching TV or playing games, do you typically play with people that you would normally play with outside?
I would rather play with people outside because like whenever I do outside, it's like oh yeah, I'm really get to play with people because I'm not used to playing with people because I'm playing game too. Play with people in the game or only outside. Um, I do play with people in the game too, but it's not as exciting as outside because when I'm outside, it's like freedom. Like because I've been in the house all day. Like it's jail. It's jail, but it's like the jail is like, but the jail is like you can still see outside. It's it's like that. Um, it's kind of sort of like meeting your favorite person in the world, but not actually seeing that person. It's like that.
Okay.
I think it's like house arrest. Get grounded. It's basically like that, but you get to do everything that you want to do except go outside or except do other stuff that you need to do if you do it on a daily schedule.
And this is really like, for me, this is really like blowing my mind to hear our children um, refer to the pandemic as jail, or a form of jail, which is house arrest, right? This is really mind blowing. So, and I feel like, again, as parents, as adults, as people that might be guardians, as people that are connected to young kids, like these are conversations that we have to have with our children. It's one thing for us to look at all of the money that we're losing as adults, not being able to go to work the same, you know, everything that's going on with us. Like I get it. I don't want to nullify it or make it any smaller than what it is, and not say that being an adult doesn't have its issues. But they are the future of what we have, and we have to take care of them in order to make sure that they are successful and productive adults in the world going forward. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that they don't feel like life is jail, right? Like that's it's just as simple as it get. Masai, just to ask you the same question, when you do play with kids online, right? When you get the opportunity to play VR, or if you're playing a video game of some sort, do you typically play with the kids that you would normally play with outside to kind of try to, get some time in with those friends, or is it a different set of friends for you?
Well, it is like it's both. It's like a different set of friends, and then it's like friends I sometimes play with. Like today, I was playing with my friend from middle school that I haven't talked to in a minute because I went to another school. But like, also, I don't really get to talk to them because it's like they're doing things, and I want to do things. I want to go outside, and it's like sometimes feels like I'm forced to go like have to play this game because I have no any other option. I can't go outside and do something. So it's like I have no other choice except play the game because I don't want to just sit in the house bored doing the same routine every single day. I can't go outside and go explore. I can't go do anything. And when you do try to play with your friends, they have to go do something. So it's always like miscommunication and stuff.
And I think that that's a great perspective to it, right? Because me as an adult, I would probably like, I'm not even going to say probably. I look at it like, okay, all of the kids are online, they're going to school, and then they probably get off at the same time or around the same time, so they all play games together, right? But now, in real life, people go on vacations, they go away to family houses. I know, my son in particular, we were just away from home for 2 to 3 weeks. So, and his friends, they would stop by the house every other day. Hey, can Roman come outside, and things of that sort, right? So now, when you go to get on this game, like what happens if your friend is not on, right? So now the only fun that you thought that you had, right? Now your friend is somewhere, or his family took a trip to Mexico. They ain't trying to get them roaming charges. They ain't got no Wi-Fi. Now you ain't got nobody to play with, right? So that's a challenge that they go through too, right? For us as adults, we find ways to interact with each other, right? Cell phones, FaceTime. We have a bunch of different ways to interact with each other. A lot of these kids, their way of interacting with each other is video games, right? So how do we allow them to still have that social interaction, but also still be mindful of the screen time and what that can possibly be doing to their eyes, their brains, their mood, and then their actions going forward. So I think that that's a good question for us to think about as parents or as adults. Like, how do we, not rob them of that social interaction, but still be mindful of the effects of screen time? So, Darren, I want to ask you this question. How easy do you think it is, or yeah, Darren, how easy do you think it is to make friends online? And is that something that's common these days?
I think it's really, actually, really, really easy. Because the only thing that you can do is basically just talking to
Hold
a
on one
friend that
second,
talks
Darren.
back to you.
Hold on one second, Darren. Nikki, you got your Wi-Fi on? You're breaking up a little bit. Nikki? Hey, Nikki, do you have your Wi-Fi on? You guys are breaking up a little bit. All right, Nikki disappeared. So I'm going to pass that question over to you, Roman. Do you feel like it's something that's common nowadays for like people to make friends online?
Well, yes, because even some people are probably might be lucky that they have friends near them because I'm one of those lucky people because I have friends like right behind this house. But is I think it's very common because they don't really have friends. Well, they can't meet friends in real life as much as they used to because they weren't in school or they weren't used to be out. And I have like a lot of online friends that I still talk to, but it's not like I was when I was in school.
Right. Definitely. And I think that that's something that we see a little bit more often. Like Roman said, everyone doesn't have friends that they may feel comfortable, or even if they live close enough that your parent might feel comfortable coming to the house, right? With the pandemic and things of that sort. So, or coming by, or you playing with, or the type of rules that you guys would have to play. Like, do you guys wear masks while you're outside and playing? And those are all things that are unique to your specific situation. But like Roman said, some people don't have friends that live right next to them. Usually, a lot of these kids, they're from different areas, or different places in the same area, but they all go to the same school. So they're able to, meet up with each other and talk all day. And depending on, elementary school, middle school, high school, you might only see certain friends certain periods of the day. But we know in our earlier years in school, you pretty much stay with the same people all day, and you guys go through classes together. So you might not be lucky enough to be around your friends all day. So now you're forced to now feel like you have to meet different people online, and you feel like they have the same interests as you, because you guys are playing the game together, and things of that sort. So now you're meeting these people online, and making friends. Now, for the parents, right, I feel like now that's a double edge, right? Because now it's like, okay, they're meeting people online. Our kids are able to interact and make friends. Natalie, what do you think are some of the scares for a parent or an adult in a child's life who is making friends online due to the pandemic?
Which Natalie? Which one? Me or her?
Yeah, the OG, the
Oh,
big
y'all.
dog.
The OG.
Oh, you got jokes. I, I'm so glad you asked me that question because what was going through my mind, two things, and I don't want to open up Pandora's box. Number one, I was listening to them about wanting to go outside, not being able to go outside. And for me, with all the pandemic and all the things with the racial tension that was going on, it was kind of like just a little bit sigh of relief knowing they were home and not traveling to and from school. I know that's selfish, but it was a sigh of relief for what I've seen as an OG, knowing how cruel people can be and just different things that have happened to young black men. I'm just going to drive by that. But I do have a fear with them meeting people online, and I do listen. And I ear hustle. I'll come in the room when Julian's on the computer and say, his voice is, oh, how old is he? How old are you, baby? How? And they be like, Grandma, they can't tell. Oh, they're going to tell me or get off, And I know I embarrass them sometimes, but I do worry about that, the predators online. That does scare me a lot. And I have to trust their judgment, but I don't trust it. So I am hands on, huh? Am I embarrassing?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, and I don't care. I don't care. I want them to be safe. So that's the biggest thing. And then I just want us as parents to make sure that they understand the definition of friend. I was trying to watch the screen.
A gamer is not your friend. We really need to teach them the definition of friend and acquaintance. They're not bad, but they're not your friend. Stranger danger, you know. So I could go on and on with that one.
Like teaching them the difference between a gamer and your friend, right? Like, what is the definition of a friend, right? And then as we get older, especially a lot of things with like new memes and people saying like your friends shouldn't do this and friends is this and the definition of a friend this. And I feel like as adults, we still have a particular criteria for our friend. So why is it that we don't show our kids that they should have a criteria for a friend, and it's not just somebody that likes to play video games with you, right? That's not your friend. That's somebody that just shares the same interest, but that's not necessarily your friend. So Alicia said in our comments, it's very common. All they need is a gamer tag, and they think they have new friends. And then she also said, stranger, why does a 12-year-old have a 30-year-old friend? Have to monitor and listen to their conversations. And that goes, directly into what Natalie said, right? Like, why does this person sound like, why do they have the same amount of bass in their voice as I do? Like, it sounds like you're talking to me on the other end of there. And that's very uncomfortable for me, right? And then now you have these people who are predators, and they're very good at manipulating our children to get information out of them. So where they think they're having a friendly conversation, this person, because they have years of experience and then they're that much older than you, they know how to get you in a comfortable place, manipulate you, say whatever it is that they need to say to make you feel comfortable enough for you to tell them where you live at, who lives next door, what time your mother go to work, and all of these different things. So we definitely have to monitor these things and make sure that our kids know, like, everybody that you meet is not your friend. It's nice to say that you enjoy playing games with them, but it doesn't necessarily make them your friend, right? So I want to end it off with this question, and I'll ask Masai. Is it a struggle to make time for work, and also time to play games and watch TV?
And football practice.
Well, for me, kinda, because during school they sometimes not often, but they give you like a work or like little five paragraph essay to do. You have to do that before you go to work, and my hours are always like they're different every week, so I'd have to have make plans ahead to do things. So it is kind of like hard to do time stuff, and when I do feel like getting on the internet when it's not like boring to me, it's like I can't do this because then I have to go do class, and then after I do class, I have to do homework. Then after homework, I have to go to work, and then it's just like stuff like that.
Right, and I know that you also said that you had the job as well, and then football and stuff like that. So how do those things factor into it as well?
Well, it's all
Look at the camera.
about priorities, and it's like, well, school first comes first. Then after school, then I have to go to work. Then after work, I have to go do football practice. Then after football practice, then I could play games, because it's like now mainly since the society I said it that like every like games and fun is like last and everything's last. It's like you have to do work and stuff first. So it's like priorities and you have to section those things off.
And I think that that's a great comment for our younger viewers, our younger panelists, I should say, Darren and Roman. Prior like being able to prioritize, knowing that everything is not a priority. Like, if you have to go to school, school is the first priority, and then it's games and TV and things of that sort. And as you get older, you learn those things, but when you're younger, you just want to do whatever's fun, and basically like whatever you like to do. So Darren, Roman, what do you think as far as like making time to play games and stuff like that? Is it a struggle trying to get your schoolwork done and and still play games, like make time to play games?
Well, it's a little hard to actually make time because I want to play. Like if I, for example, if I am on the game until a certain amount of time, and you notice that I'm on the game until like 10 o'clock, I bet you would say, but when you know what, I'm getting off topic. So like so basically, I feel like that it's hard because you want to do something before you want to do your work because you like playing it or enjoying it and you're used to it. If, for example, like if you're on Saturday or on Sunday, then you know you're gonna get to play all day, or you're gonna have to do a little work that was on Friday that you have to do, and then you realize that I have to do some work, and you're gonna be sad because you already you already thought you did all the work.
Right. So, sort of kind of piggybacking off what Masai said, like, just prioritizing and making sure that you're doing what you got to do when you need to do it, so that that way, on the days where you're supposed to have a break, like a weekend or something like that, right? You're able to enjoy your whole weekend and not have to do work on the days where you're not supposed to because you want to play games because we all want to play games and. I know me half the times I don't want to go to work. Every single adult that's watching this has been in a position where they wanted to hit the snooze button. We want to do something else that we don't want to do other than work or what the priority is. But like you and Masai said, you got to get these things done because that's what's most important. So Darren, I'll ask you this question before we get off, and I ask Masai and Roman this question. Um, do you think it's a struggle to make time for work and opposed to like playing games and playing and stuff and watching TV? All right, so Darren's having a little bit of issues with his connection. So on that note, with everything that we talked about today, so we were able to go over, our kids being home all day, like all day, and for parents that have clingy kids, I know you're having a hard time. I'm praying for you. My brother, my sister, I'm praying for you if you have clingy kids, because now they're home all day. And I know moms like to make the joke like they can't use the bathroom and they have the little illustration with the little baby hand under the door, even when they're trying to use the bathroom and stuff like that. And now your kid is home all day. You got to work from home and now your kid is doing school from home, but now we got a chance to hear it from our young people's point of view, right? Like, how do they feel about being home all day, right? And then also, when we look at the pandemic, a lot of people look at like, yo, they closed all the clubs, they closed all the restaurants, they closed all the bowling alleys. But what about our kids? Like, they closed the schools, they closed the parks, they closed the basketball courts, they closed the football fields. Like, how do you think they feel about it, right? Like, have we asked our kids, like, how do they feel about them closing all of the things for them to interact with their friends, right? And then we talked about like friends, and then no friends, right? Like our kids having that inability to be around people and play with people, or just talk to people and things of that sort of that's their age, right? And schooling and things of that sort, right? And we heard from our kids and they talked about schooling and not being able to have that personal interaction with their teachers and how that's causing the struggle for them. So how can we support them in that? And then lastly, screen time. Our kids are in front of these screens day, all day. And this is something that we have to keep in mind because as adults, if you've ever worked in an office, we as adults need breaks from looking at a screen. So if our children are looking at these screens all day and then they're playing their games, which are screen related, we have to try to find a way to manage this so that we don't damage their sight and it doesn't alter their behavior, right? So that wraps up our episode. Roman, do you want to say anything to our viewers before we go?
Um, um, so I have a question, but I don't know if it's a question. It's basically just to tell someone.
Yeah.
Well, it's like if you play VR for a long time, people say you get motion sick, and I don't get motion sick for some reason. I don't know if that's for other people because even though Darren takes breaks, I don't know if he does get motion sick. but I play for like 5 hours each day, and then it doesn't affect on me. So I don't know. Even though it affects on like details on my body, like my eyes and your hands, because they get fingerprints. But I don't know how it affects me when if it gives you stuff that's on the game like motion sickness
Okay.
or it makes you dizzy, because I only got dizzy once and the rest of the times I didn't.
Well, that's definitely something to think about. And I'm happy that you brought that up to our parents and our other viewers who may have a VR or parents whose children may have a VR. I do just want to point out and say this. Roman does not play VR for 5 hours straight. He may have different stretches where he'll play for, because he does have work to do. I don't want it to get misconstrued that I allow my son to sit with something on his face and I'm over here preaching about screen time, and I allow him to sit with something on his face for 5 hours. So that's definitely not the case. But that is something that that they bring up in connection with the VR, the virtual reality headset, which is motion sickness, trouble with the eyes, and things of that sort. So it's definitely something that you want to look into. And Roman, I know our viewers definitely appreciate that comment and letting them know that, right? Darren, while we got you, is there anything that you want to say to our viewers before we head out? All right, so I'm guessing that Darren froze again. If they're able to get the connection back, we'll go back to Darren. Masai, is there anything that you want to say to our viewers before we head out?
Well, one thing is that the teachers really do make or break a classroom, because it all depends on their attitude and stuff. Like, I have some teachers in school that I interact with, and they make time to talk to students and email them and stuff. Like my first and third period teacher, he's really lively and talks and asks questions, and I like talks about what they did in the weekend, what they do, what they think was their opinion, what assignments would they like to do, what assignments would they not like to do, what they're comfortable with and stuff. And then you have some teachers who just give you the work and go do something else. So I mean, that's also one thing. It's like stereotypes of teachers. But other than that, it's like everything's usually it's okay. It's hard to adapt to things, but it's hopefully almost over, just as long as we all stay safe and stay at home.
I agree. And Natalie, do you have anything you want to say for our viewers before we get out of here?
I just what I my takeaway from this is I learned so much. I need to listen more to our young people because they use sometimes house arrest, being in jail, and I didn't think that they were looking at it like that. Messiah and I are gonna go for a walk. I told him he could be my coach. I'll walk with him. I made a commitment just to walk with him every day when he's here. So we're gonna do that right after that. Hold me accountable. But yeah, take more family walks. But thank you for doing this. It was great hearing from these young people, what they're experiencing. We need to listen. I need to listen more. So thank you.
Totally agree 101%. And that was the reason why I thought that this particular topic would be good, right? In thinking of this topic, I knew like off the bat that it might not be something that people would gravitate to, right? And I just want to say this like publicly. I do what I do, not for some of the reasons that a lot of people do what they do online today, right? Everything that's done for, I'm not going to say everything, but a lot of things that are done are for money, for views, for attention. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, which is okay. I'm not saying that anything is wrong with any of those things. But when I'm thinking about the topics for the podcast, when I'm thinking about panelists, when I'm thinking about information, it's genuinely everything that I do, from podcasting to basketball training and events with Kingdom Hoops, or preaching on Sunday mornings, or at different events, right? It's for love, right? I genuinely, if you're watching this now, if you see this video, if I genuinely love you, like cool. If you're looking at this right now, like I genuinely love you, and that's the reason why this episode was so crucial, because our youth they need to know that we genuinely love them. We genuinely care about how they feel, what's going on with them. And I think the sooner that we're able to show that to them, the sooner that we'll be able to help them going forward and get through this time, which has been tough for us as adults. And I can only imagine how much tougher it is on them, not knowing the same type of coping mechanisms or ways to get around things that we have grown to know with experience, right? They're only kids. So they don't know how to navigate certain things or get around certain things. And it's up to us to listen to them, to get their opinions, see how they feel about things so we can help them and make sure that they're successful. And just to end it right here, Natalie said something in our Is Poverty a Mindset episode, and she said, I've grown to a point where I've realized, and I'm just paraphrasing, I've realized that I don't want to be, it's not more important to me to be successful than it is to be significant, right? So when we're talking about being successful as parents, right, like a lot of us have big dreams and we want to be successful, but are we significant to our kids, right? Like, is what we're doing for our kids, does it mean something to them, right? How do they feel about us? Because it's one thing to become a millionaire and you saying you're doing it for your kids, and then your kids become adults and they don't want to talk to you, they don't want to be around you, they don't feel like you were there for them. So that's what this was for. It wasn't your I guess average or typical podcast episode. It was for the love of people and for the love of our youth, and to give them a voice, and to inspire viewers to give their child a voice when it comes to things like this. So I do just want to let you guys know that the Facebook page for the Better Me Equals a Better We podcast is up. Episode 7, as well as this episode here, should be up by tomorrow, and then the next episode will be on that page, right? So the next episode will be on the Better Me Equals a Better We podcast page. You guys can like that page, share that page, invite your friends to like the page, share the page. And this episode, right? If you like the episode, share the episode, send it to somebody in their messenger. If you didn't like the episode, share the episode, share it to somebody in their messenger. Somebody might need it, right? Like, it might not be you, right? But somebody else might need it, right? So share it, let somebody else see it. Let's learn, grow together. By Thursday, you guys will have the information for the next episode. And then by Monday, you guys will have the panelists. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before we get out of here, just remember, right? Remember this. A better me equals a better we. All right? I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye.